Hi, Rob Papen here, and let me tell you more about the features which you can find in Vecto. By the way, all the presets I'm using in this tutorial you can find in the folder called Example Patches. Vecto has 4 oscillators, and in the middle you can see an XY pad. In this video we will talk a lot about the features inside this section. From there on it moves to the filters, and we have 2 filters on board with 28 filter algorithms. Below it we have the amp section with the main volume envelope. We have the play mode. Below that we have the arpeggiator which you can use. We have 2 free envelopes, 2 free LFOs, a modulation matrix with a lot of options, and 2 FX blocks. But let us focus on the oscillator section. The preset I use now is Move the Dot to. Once the vector is on, this means that you see in the corners numbers appearing. These numbers are the oscillators. The vector is on now and it's in direct mode, which means that with the dot I control the volumes between oscillator 1, 2, 3 and 4. Listen. So this you can do manual using your mouse or just record it in Reason. Therefore we added also 2 dials here that you can record this movement into your Reason track. Well, this is the direct mode, but there is also a replay mode. Replay means that it replays the movement inside the XY pad. The way the movement is, you can select down here. Now I selected a circle, but I can select also another movement. This one, square, or a pyramid, or for instance a spiral. As you can see, we have several dots, and these dots you can edit. So you still can alter the whole movement to your own taste. The max amount of step is 32, so you also can go down if you want to make it a bit more easier. The movement, by the way, can be MIDI tempo based. Sync to, in this case we did sync to 1 bar. And we can change the tempo here with speed. And what we also can do, we can choose to loop from a certain point. Well, in this case I will loop it from simply step 1. We can also use an external controller to control the speed of the movement. For instance, the pitch bend is interesting because with pitch bend you can go up and down. So when I play now the note and go up with my pitch, the tempo of the movement goes up. When I go down with the pitch bend, the movement goes slower. Now I selected another preset which is called Move the Dot. When I play a note and move the dot, you can hear that the pitch glides. What I did, I used the Y direction in the modulation matrix to control the semitone of oscillator 1. Another feature in this XY pad is that we have time quantize but also space quantize. And space quantize means that it goes to the grid when I select 1/8 note. You can hear it gets jumps. Instead of a floating note, it goes in 1/8 steps. Of course, this is now done manual in the direct mode, but also can use replay for this. Let's take another preset to let you hear what you get. Instead of move the dot, this patch is called moving the dot, and you can see replay and there's a movement here. And here I selected quantize, bass and time quantize. Time quantize means that all the notes are in 1/8 note distance in timing. Space quantize means that it quantizes on the space of the XY pad. Therefore you can hear these little steps moving. Let me put it off, both of them, and you can hear the difference. This is time quantize. And now I do also space quantize. So once I move a dot here with space quantize, it jumps to this spot, this next spot. Let me do it in fourths. It's very big, so you can see that it jumps very big steps now. So this is also a very nice feature inside the XY pad. The next patch I'm using is Reason 2 Vecto. And you can see I only use 4 steps in this movement. It goes from oscillator 1 to oscillator 3, then up to oscillator 2. So if you're using this XY pad, you don't have to use all the 4 oscillators. It also can be less. This one uses 3 oscillators and moves from 1 to 3 to 2. Well, what I wanted to show you by using this patch is the modes we have inside Vecto. Now it's called poly mode, used in poly mode, and if I hit a note, each note gets its own movement. So each note starts its own movement. When I use mono mode, it means that each time I hit a new note, the whole movement is re-triggered and restarted. So if I hit the second note, it starts again. What you can do yourself is just experiment with this feature. What is best to use for your sound, or if you're having an existing patch, you can play around with it. The other mode is called free mode, and free mode means that essentially the movement keeps on playing. If I go to this same preset but then with loop mode on, the loop mode is here, loop start, that it means that it loops from step 2. When I use free mode, it continues playing . Especially when you use the arpeggiator, I can advise you to use the free mode. Because with the arpeggiator plays a note for you. And each time one step is played in poly or mono mode, it would re-trigger the movement. So if you're using the arpeggiator, use the free mode. Let me pick an example patch for you. You can see the dots keep on moving. If I would use it now in direct mode, you have to change this, the movement yourself, of course, but with replay it continues between those dots. You will find many patches inside Vecto, and one fun part you could do yourself is if you see that the XY pad is used and you can see which oscillators are used, is by simply picking a different waveform, you often run into a very nice new sound. This preset or patch is called Space Fox Move, and it uses oscillator 1 and oscillator 2, and it moves from oscillator 1 to oscillator 2. Well, let's take another waveform here and let's see what happens. I take strings. So it's pretty easy to make your own presets just by using different waveforms. You often run into some very interesting new sounds. Okay, now I take patch Vecto Circle, and as mentioned, you can select down here the type of movement you like to have. I could select here, instead of the circle, I could select here another movement. This is the circle. I make it a spiral. You can alter it here, make it different. But there are also other features like rotate. It rotates the whole movement. You can reverse the movement, so instead from going that point to the other point, that it reverses it. Now press reverse. You can flip horizontal the movement, you can flip it vertical, you can make it smaller, make it bigger. So tons of options. So if you have a current preset, well, just play around with the XY pad and you will be surprised how many different sounds you will encounter. There's far more to tell about the oscillators, because besides the XY pad we have some other very cool features inside the oscillator section. Take patch Voxa thing, which is this one. Well, this patch we use 3 oscillators for making a kind of FM setup. Oscillator 4 in this patch, I shut down 1, 2 and 3, has the vocal sound. But the other ones, oscillator 1, 2 and 3, are connected together for making an FM type of sound. Oscillator 1, we can see, has as oscillator routing oscillator 2. So instead of going to the filter or to the FX, it goes to oscillator 2, which means that it frequency modulates oscillator 2. The same goes for oscillator 3, which is also directed to oscillator 2. With FM synthesis, it is the case that the oscillators which are modulating need a volume envelope to make effective sounds which are useful. So inside each oscillator you find also a volume control menu box, and there you can select, for instance, the free envelope 1, which I use in oscillator 1, and the free envelope 2, which I use in oscillator 3. So the Vecto is not only a synthesizer with 4 oscillators and an XY pad, but you can do far more. Another nice feature inside the oscillator section is that you can delay each oscillator. For instance, in this sound, oscillator 3 is delayed by 1 bar. And oscillator 2 is delayed by half a bar. Let me shut down oscillator 1 and oscillator 4. Of course, if you delay the oscillators, you need to have also nice volume control. Well, the volume control in oscillator 3 is envelope 2. Free envelope 2, but it's delayed. So you also need to delay the triggering of the envelope. And this can be arranged in the modulation matrix. We can see here, for instance, in oscillator 3, the delay triggers the retrigger of envelope 2. So the moment when the oscillator 3 starts to play, 1 bar later, the free envelope also starts 1 bar later. Same goes for oscillator 2. We set this one to half a bar delay and use free envelope 1 to control the volume envelope. And you can see that oscillator 2 delay has also retrigger envelope 1. Here's another example. Preset is called Osc in Delay Synth. In this one, Oscillator 3 has a delay of 1 bar and is controlled by the free envelope. And Oscillator 2 has a delay of half a bar but also has a repeat function of 1/4 note. So the Oscillator 2 is also repeating. So let me play solo for you Oscillator 2, which has a delay, but also a retriggering. So Vecto has some very interesting features inside each oscillator, and combined with the modulation matrix, you can do some very cool stuff. So check out the preset, which you can find in the example folder. Okay, let me show you another cool feature which is inside Vecto. It's inside the play mode and it's called chord memory. By playing just one note, it plays a chord for you. Of course, you have to select how many notes it plays for you. Now this preset is called Chord Strum Who Crier. Keep in mind, I only play one note. Let me show you how it works. When I put it off, chord memory is gone. So the synthesizer plays normal. Let me select chord 2. And to make it a bit better hearable for you, I shut down the strumming here, which is this dial, put it down, and I select note 2 for editing. And with this semi dial here, I can tune the note. The second note I also can pan to the right, to the left, and even I can pan the first note. So the first note to the left and the second note to the right. Strumming means that instead of playing at the same time, the other notes are delayed in playing. If I press the sing button, it's even MIDI time based. Now let's go back to the preset. In this preset, I used 4 codes. So 4 are active and each have their own tuning. Of course, each time when I use this chord mode, I only play one note. So keep in mind that if you will play now chords with chord mode on, you use a lot of CPU and also play chords on chords. So that's not very handy. So if you use the chord mode, keep it solo notes and maybe max 2 notes. Then there is a little variation which is called chord strum who ting, which is in fact the sound you just heard, but with a nice trick to it, which happens in Oscillator 4. Oscillator 4 uses the finger bell, but it has a delay of 1 bar. So this is in combination with chord mode and one oscillator playing 1 bar later. So with all these features inside Vecto, you can do some amazing stuff. The last feature I would like to point out in this small tutorial is the arpeggiator, which has this dial which is called V/K. This one you can find also in Predator, in Sub-Boom Bass and Quad, for instance. And what it does is this thing. If you go with this dial fully to the left, the velocity settings of these dials are taken. When I go with this dial fully to the right, the velocity settings of these dials below here for each step are ignored, and it uses the input from your keyboard playing as velocity. And we made it a dial, of course, that you also can mix in between, so that you have the velocity setting of these dials for each step and the input of your keyboard, so you can mix it. There's of course more to tell about Vecto, but hopefully this tutorial will help you a bit to understand more about the powers of Vecto.